The scene begins with the protagonist lying on the ground, sword stabbed through his chest in a dimensional world. Comrades lay lifeless around him. Gathering the last remnants of his magic, he whispers, "If there are any survivors, respond. If you cannot speak, move, or make a sound, please." His aura flares as he lifts his head, his expression filled with sorrow. "So, in the end, there's no one. Am I the only survivor?" A flashback overtakes him. His eyes reflect the face of the one he despises most, the High Priest, the man who first consolidated the demons and led humanity to ruin. A demon's shriek fills the air, terrorizing a crying infant. The protagonist steps forward, chanting a spell, and in an instant, the demon is obliterated. The baby begins to fall, but he swiftly casts wind magic, guiding the child safely to one of his comrades. In the war against the demons who crossed over from the demonic realm, alongside the White Tower mages who followed me, the memory shifts, showing him at the forefront of an army of mages. "Put everything on the line for the future of humanity," commands, his brilliant blue magic striking down hordes of demons. The battle rages, and the High Priest meets his end, severed head lying on the blood-soaked ground. Staring down at it, the protagonist mutters, "If it weren't for us, no one could have done it." Back in the present, still lying on the ground, he hears a voice. The Dragon Lord appears before him, stating the time and date, April 28th, 3:12 p.m. The protagonist breathes heavily. "I have confirmed the death of the High Priest, the world's final dragon and observer of history." Endasol Lapla solemnly nods. "Mage Tower Master of the White Tower, I bring both good and bad news." "Start with the bad news," he says, his voice weak. As expected, the demonic army has invaded the White Tower. In the process, most of the mages perished, and the tower itself was partially destroyed. His gaze falls, despair creeping into his heart. And the good news? The Imperial forces arrived sooner than expected. Some survivors were saved, including your disciple. A cough racks his body, blood spilling onto his trembling hand. "That's a relief." The Dragon Lord watches. "Do you regret your choices today?" He shakes his head. "No. Each of them was someone I personally chose and led. I cannot claim to regret this before them." Blood drips from his lips as he coughs again. "Take care of my disciples from time to time. They are still young. I'm sure they are anxious." The Dragon Lord bows slightly. "I will check on them occasionally." A faint chuckle escapes his lips, a dragon bowing her head to a mere human. "You have earned that respect. Continent and I will never forget the sacrifices of the White Tower's heroes." "Well, of course, that should be the case." His voice trails off as his eyes slowly close. In his final thoughts, he admits, "It would be a lie to say I have no regrets. I may have been the greatest mage, but I was not a good leader. But if, just if, I were given another opportunity, even if I were branded a villain, I would live, selfish, for my people." A vision of his smiling students flashes before him. He opens his eyes one last time, gazing at the sky. "I want to live that kind of life." As he takes his final breath, the Dragon Lord walks over and gently closes his eyes. April 28th, 3:47 p.m. I confirm the death of Oscar Mage Tower Master of the White Tower. A brilliant light streaks across the sky. The scene shifts. Parchment unfolds, documenting the aftermath. High Priest, deceased. White Tower, casualty, 132. Level 6 mages, 19 level 7 mages, 2 level 8, 1 level 9 mage. Oscar Sage, Mage Tower Master. A single leaf drifts onto the page. 20 years later. In a towering magic academy, a leaf slips through an open window, landing on the hand of a sleeping young man. Nearby, a boy named Frank holds a bowl of water, tending to. As the leaf touches his skin, the young man stirs. Instinctively, he swings his arm, knocking over the bowl and splashing Frank with water. "Hey, I'm all wet. I was just changing your towel. Your sleeping habits are awful," Frank scolds. The young man blinks, sweat forming on his brow. "Sleeping habits? I slept in such a defenseless state? No. More importantly, I should have died." A chilling memory surfaces. The High Priest's blade piercing his chest. His heart pounds. "I'm certain the High Priest killed me. Then what is happening?" A loud noise erupts from outside. The door swings open as a stern-looking elder enters, face filled with anger. "You're awake," Frank interjects. "Elder, calm down. He just opened his eyes." The elder ignores him, stepping forward. "Move, Frank. I've overlooked it long enough. This time, I'll make a human out of this bastard," Frank protests. "He's still a patient." The elder glares at the— "Ha! You're surprised to be alive, aren't you? Judging by your robe, you're a White Tower mage. Explain the current situation." The young man sits up, his voice cold and authoritative. "Explain in detail." The elder's expression darkens. "You've lost your mind." He raises his veins, bulging. "You should be reflecting and begging." As the elder's hand descends, the young man's instincts kick in. An attack? Was an assassin planted by the demons? If so, he chants a spell. Windshield! A barrier forms, but the elder's strike shatters it effortlessly. The young man stares. at his trembling hands. What is this? Pathetic magic? The elder withdraws, scoffing. This windshield wasn't bad. You haven't been completely wasting time. I'll postpone your punishment for embezzling research funds. Focus on recovering for now. Frank turns to the young man, concern evident. Are you crazy? You know Eldie. Maxime's temper. The young man flexes his fingers. My mana circuits, my mana quantity, my mana purity, all of it is garbage. Is this really my body? He steels himself. What day is it? Frank sighs. September 21st. You've only been unconscious a day. A day? The young man smirks. No, this isn't just a recovery. This is 20 years after I died. Looking out at the bustling city, glowing streetlights, and the advancements of magic engineering, he exhales. Oscar Crussian, your life was wasted, but I've been given a second chance, and I won't let it go to waste. With a resolute expression, he whispers, selfish life for my people. It's not a bad start.